How's it going, guys? I'm Austin Proulx with Team Wilson Combat, and we are back for another episode of Young Guns with my friend Guy Jubert here. We are going to talk about puzzling things that we've come across in our gun industry and competitive shooting careers. Questionable choices, things maybe not to do, stuff of that nature.
Yeah, things that kind of get under the skin a little bit.
Sometimes literally.
Safety issues, gear issues. One of my favorite that I've seen numerous times back from starting in my law enforcement days is the guys who, and I don't have a problem with drop leg holsters. Like they are awesome, and they do serve a purpose, especially with a chest rig on, to get the gun a little bit lower and away from the chest rig, so on your draw stroke you don't bind up on your chest rig.
Especially if your side panels have pouches and stuff like that.
A lot of canine handlers with leash dogs want that thing a little bit lower. The thing that drives me nuts about drop leg holsters is the guy who's watched Black Hawk Down one too many times and thinks he just needs one, and he has to like
on the side of his knee,
do a dip to draw his holster. Like, it literally, to set that thing up right, it just needs to be a little bit lower than the belt to where you're still drawing without having to move your trunk of your body. And you've seen these guys.
Oh yeah.
And they have, it's, some of them are part of the guns below the knee.
Yeah.
And it's like, how fast is that to get
that was way faster
drawn
way
and on target when you have to literally
when I gotta go like this
rock.
Way faster.
Yes. So that's one of mine.
And on that note, talking about drop leg holsters, when someone has to run, the leg moves a lot more than the hip does. So you'll see them trying to draw while they're moving, and they're like chasing their gun around trying to get it, and it's
I've seen that.
a bit of a catastrophe.
It's a disaster.
Gear placement on the hips. One of my favorites is, and this is mostly newer shooters that you see doing it, and when you see it, it's best to say something about it, but magazines backwards in the mag pouch. Typically with a pistol, it's bullets forward. You come bullets forward, you can just point them right into your gun. It's just
it's a smooth transition.
There should be no reason to rotate things, and
you start.
You don't want to do a beer can grip on your
strong hand
your pistol mag,
stuff. And most of the shooters that I've tried to address that with are appreciative, because they don't want to be that guy. But they may not know, you know, and it's, I'm not a jerk about it, but like the drop leg thing, I've not been very nice at times, but it's just something they need to know. They're doing it wrong. One of the things that, from a safety standpoint, that really scares me is you get through doing whatever you're doing with your gun and it's empty, and you want to reload it to put it back in the, you know, the nightstand safe, or holster it, or
after a match you're going home,
or whatever the case may be. And they take the live round, the loose live round that was in the chamber, and they bloop, drop that thing in there, and then just drop the slide, and then reinsert the magazine. The thing that scares me about that is there's like no normal friction that would take place with feed lips being in the gun, the picking up of the round in the magazine, and then bouncing around on the feed ramp and going into the chamber. All of that kind of slows the motion of the slide down, and you don't think it's that much until you drop the slide and nothing's slowing that firing pin down that's just floating in there. It is under spring tension. A little momentum picks up, and you might have a primer strike and the gun go off unintentionally, standing in your closet, holstering up for the day, or standing next to your truck after a match, loading back up.
Desk pop.
Little desk pop. But that scares me from a safety standpoint. Like, stick the loaded mag in, drop the slide like normal, take that mag, put the safety on if you've got a thumb safety, drop that mag, holster it, stow it however you need to, put your mag or your round back in your mag, and insert the fully loaded magazine, and then do what you got to do.
That just takes so much more time though.
But it's safer, and that's what we're
low drag.
we're talking about safety here, and safety is paramount and number one when it comes to firearms.
On that note, I'm half tempted to do it right here. If I just start with an empty gun and there's nothing in it, and I do one of those. Don't do that. It's hard on guns, guys. Don't do that.
Yeah, it's any type of gun, and to play off of that, our revolver guys out there, you're gonna appreciate this one. But if you're handling a revolver and you've got the cylinder open, don't Western movie set it and zing. Yeah, like so hard on revolvers. Throw them out of timing.
Oh yeah,
you ruin the.
It'll mess them up
the gun.
bad.
Don't do that.
Speaking of revolvers, if you have a really small revolver, going with the double thumbs forward grip, there's a cylinder that ends right about here.
Yep.
And I've wound up with some pretty good black marks on my thumbs
so
before from doing that.
Yep, the discharge of the gas will
Pretty warm.
burn your thumb. Yeah, you kind of want to get those thumbs back of the cylinder or down out of the way, whatever the case may be, whatever you're comfortable with. But be careful there too.
Getting fingers out of the way is a good idea.
Kind of back to the loading, unloading thing. If you have a round in the chamber, that's how the gun should be stored. And then in a holster or in a nightstand safe or whatever the case may be. You may think it's safer to have a round in the chamber and the hammer down, and it would be if you could get there differently. But there's only one way to get there, and it's to pull the hammer back and pull the trigger of a gun with a loaded round in the chamber. And if that thumb slips, it's gonna go bang.
Right.
Wherever you're standing.
And wherever your thumb is and wherever it's pointed. And
Berettas and other guns out there that have decockers, use that decocker.
Yeah.
Like don't thumb the hammer down on guns if there's any way around it, because it can happen. I mean, gun might have could have gone off even with that much of a slip.
Doesn't take much.
No. And the only way to get to that position is to pull the hammer back and pull the trigger. And at that point, in my mind, you're trying to fire the gun. Even though you think you're trying to put it in the safest place possible to have a round in the chamber, it's so dangerous trying to get to that position. Don't do it.
Well, and you see a lot of guys in competition predominantly shooting CZs, that's part of their load and make ready procedure is they'll pull the trigger and lower the hammer, and every time it makes me cringe. Every single time. They might have done it 1,000 times safely in front of me, but every time we've in that scenario, you've got ear protection on, and you're still kind of like do that kind of flinch motion because you know it's the probability is high. Right. It's higher than most of the time.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's not my favorite. One that I see some PCC guys doing is getting way out on the muzzle or having a handguard that's flush with the muzzle, and that just makes me nervous because you'll see them like here's the end of the handguard and the muzzle is right there, and they are reaching out clear to the very end, and I always think that you're just one slip away from going like that and torching one off and losing some finger chunks. I personally don't know how that feels, but I've seen it, and it's not good. You know someone that knows how that feels.
Someone that knows how that feels.
Yeah. The pictures weren't pretty.
Be mindful of where your hands are on shorter barrels, or if you have one of those extended grips, be cautious. They had a name back in the day of MP5 finger. Real deal. Yeah. Real deal. Had some pretty squared away guys lose some fingers because they got a little too far out in front of the muzzle. One of the things, and I'm gonna take a minute to get on a soapbox, but lefties. I am a lefty, so I can talk about this. It's difficult to manufacture guns specifically for like 10% of the population. And of that 10% of the population, not all of us are shooters. So from a manufacturing standpoint, it doesn't make sense to make a fully left-handed firearm. So being a left-handed shooter and being a left-handed competitor, there's ways and manipulations that you can do to basically make any firearm operational as a left-handed shooter without going to an extreme. I've shot so many different handguns through my lifetime and in my career here, and all of them have ejected to the right. Mm-hmm. Every one of them that I've ever shot handgun-wise have ejected to the right. Now, I do have shotguns that are bottom eject, Browning BPS, but it still wouldn't matter. I've got a lot of shotguns that kick that shell right across my face. ARs kick that shell right across my face. Never had any issues mechanically. One thing I will tell you is on a handgun, if it's a thumb safety style gun, you're gonna need an ambi.
Yep.
But after that, you're good to go. You may not have a slide stop over here where you can do a super sexy little in drop slide, but like I said, that's a slide stop in my mind, not a slide release, so it doesn't really affect what I do. I hit that reload and then just turn my hand up, slide down and back on. Very little movement, very little wasted motion. But if you can do those things, and then when you get to slide lock, that's how I do it. Trigger finger on the mag release, and then I'm back to my firing grip before I even get to the mag.
Well, and I rotate the gun in my hand to hit it with my
Right,
thumb
and
anyways.
most righties
So
do.
you're
They
doing
have to
some
break
sort
their
of-
grip.
Some sort of an adjustment.
Yeah, so lefties, you're still gonna have to break your grip to hit that, and then seat it, roll it, rack it, and back on. And it's real fast if you practice it from a handgun standpoint.
I've seen other lefties that actually reach around underneath and hit the slide release, or some of them come back with their trigger finger and hit it there.
But there's what I'm getting at is there's ways to be proficient with a right-handed firearm. You know, just adapt and overcome it. It is something, an obstacle, if you will, but don't let it be. Just rock and roll. Do it. AR styles. A lot of times I don't have ambidextrous safeties on my ARs because I feel like I can kind of perch on that selector with my trigger finger, and as I'm bringing the gun up from low ready, high ready to target, there's enough time to roll that with your trigger finger as you're going to the trigger. And then mag release, a lot of times on ARs, mags will hang, and so just out of precaution for that, I come here, hit that mag release with my right thumb, strip the mag as I'm going to my reload, insert that mag, and I'm already here, and just from the back side, slap the paddle, and bolt closes, and I'm ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, I've seen you stoke up an AR, and coming back there with the hand doesn't cost you any time.
Nope, not really. And there's, you know, people, and ambis are great on ARs, but you can still park on that thing with your trigger finger kind of back here on this back knuckle. And as you're rolling to the trigger, roll that thing off. And then for safety's sake and time's sake, because if you come back here even as a righty and you use your trigger finger and hit that mag release, and that thing hangs and you're here, it's a whole lot harder to do a tack reload with an AR mag than it is a handgun mag. So I've always been a fan of strip that mag out and just lose it on your way to the reload mag, insert, slap, get back into it.
So maybe ARs are actually more left-hand friendly.
Maybe. And it's just something that I've come to learn over the years of shooting different platforms.
You just figured it out.
Yeah.
Just made it work.
And it's easy, and if any lefties are out there that want more detailed information about that, let us know. We can do a solely dedicated video on some of those techniques. But what else for you?
I've heard some stories from you coming from the customer service department. Fun happenstance coming along through the phones. One that I don't know if I should touch on, but I'm probably gonna, is Serpa Holsters. We actually, my dad and I used to use Serpa Holsters way back in the day in competition, and managed to never put holes in our legs. ultimately those failures are the fault of the shooter for getting on the trigger too soon, but it probably does put you at more of a risk for torching one off either into yourself or right next to yourself than is necessary or would happen with other holsters. There are plenty of other retention holsters out there that don't require that at all. That one is kind of a point of contention even now, but I generally stay away from Serpas for the most part.
Yep.
Personally.
Agreed. Same. One that always kind of makes me giggle is the concealed carrier that's not concealed at all.
Yeah, concealed means concealed. If I can spot your gun, you're not concealed carrying. Yeah. And kind of just the voice in the back of the head, intrusive thoughts. When I see someone open carrying in a holster with no retention, like an Uncle Mike's or something, part of me just wants to see if I can just
snatch it
without them knowing and just put it back. I'm not stealing the gun. I just want to see if I can do it without them noticing. I don't do it, but there's that voice. It's like, I bet I could. Yep. I bet I could.
Yep.
So that one's always fun.
Yeah. The guy that's wearing his little sister's t-shirt and you can almost make out the exact manufacturer
I know what that
of the
is.
fire. Yeah, that's a Glock 43.
He's got a +2 extension on that base pad. Yeah. You can wear pretty form-fitting clothing and still conceal stuff, but there's a point where your muscle shirt didn't come with any muscles, and drying it on high heat isn't going to change that, but we can see your gun now.
Yep.
Another one that's not necessarily specific to the manipulation of guns and gear, but I feel like could be mentioned, is excessive gun stickers on your vehicle.
Yeah.
You're kind of making yourself a target.
Yep.
Because there are a lot of people who are characters of ill repute, I guess I would say, that know what those gun stickers are.
Yep. And
you might be advertising to them whether or not there actually is an easy to get to gun in your vehicle.
It's worth looking though.
You might lose a window at best.
Yep.
Or pocket knives in your truck, or any other cool stuff that might just be sitting in there. So
been there, done that.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any gun stickers. I just had a thin blue line sticker, and apparently that was offensive to some people that wanted to break my window and see how much stuff I had in my cab of my truck. Yep.
Yeah. So it's not limited to just guns. It's keeping in mind all those facets of the stuff that you project. The gray man concept, and you can't be gray man if you're wearing a bunch of gun stuff.
Yep.
I hate to break it to you, but most people don't wear like 511 khakis and the 9-line t-shirt and the gun hat. Well, I would expect you to be wearing a gun.
Okay.
Are you wearing a gun?
I am wearing a gun.
There you go. Yeah. There are levels and layers to gray man, and I would think that the most gray man would be like a hippie in tie-dye.
Yeah.
And like
Jerusalem
Jesus
cruisers.
boots.
Yeah. Yep.
No way that guy's got a gun.
No. Kind of in the competitive arena, like help paint and help tape.
Yeah. Participate.
Yeah.
Be a good person.
That's a big one. But those are kind of, in a nutshell, things that chap me.
Yeah. And in the competitive arena, ask questions.
Yeah.
Most people are super helpful.
Yep. And I tell people here at the office too, like the only stupid question is the one that you don't ask. And I've learned a lot in my shooting career by asking questions and just watching and paying attention to other shooters of any skill level. I mean, you can pick up things from the guy who finishes in the middle of the pack or the girl, and it's awesome. There's always something out there to learn from, and you just got to pay attention to it.
I know you've learned what not to do a couple of times from watching me.
Well, the same could be said
Close
for me.
the loop.
Close the loop. But we all have our moments, but ask questions. There's no, everybody out there is friendly for the most part and is willing to help you.
Speaking of questions, guys, hop down in the comments, ask away. Tell us about some of the cool stuff, or maybe not so cool stuff, that you've seen over the years. I'm sure we'll get some fun stories in the comments on this one.
I can't wait to watch that.
If you like the content, or you feel like you can relate to any of it, like it, subscribe, share it with your friends. If any of these stories really resonated, make sure and get it out there to everyone you know and get a good chuckle out of it.
And don't do these things.
Right.
Or stop doing them if you do them.
Don't be dumb.
Yep.
Don't be dumb. That's what Guy tells me, is don't be dumb. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll catch you on the next episode of Young Guns.